Hello and welcome back to the channel, Ben's workshop journey, and a little update on what's been happening. The last episode finished with me sawing a couple of lengths on the bandsaw and taking the thickness down preparatory to putting it through the thicknesser. But if you remember from the last episode, it was a real slog trying to push this piece through. Now, just as I was coming to the end of the episode, my neighbour Tim stuck his head round the workshop door and watched me as I finished off the piece, and then made quite a succinct comment. He noticed that the blade that I'd been using was a 10 to 12 tooth to the inch blade, and he just reminded me that that was too fine for the job that I was doing. I needed to move up to a 3 teeth per inch blade. Now that did ring a bell, and I should have spotted that, but hey ho, it is what it is. At least I've got one piece that I can now do. So what I'm going to do is change the blade again to the 3 teeth per inch blade. But something else that happened last week, you might not have seen it, but I'll show you in a couple of minutes. The blade has an internal guard, and that has become bent and misshapen, so it might be that was throwing the blade out. Because if you remember from last time, there was a difference in thickness top to bottom, and so it's possible that blade guard was pushing everything out of alignment. So I've got a spare one of those that I'm going to put on as well. Get that done first, and then we can get on with cutting. And just open up, and this is the result of what I was doing last week. Now the blade is really choked up with things, but let me see if I can get you in any further. Just here you'll notice there's a lot of rubbish that is binding against the upper wheel. So if I release the tension, and can you see just here, there's a lot of rubbish and it's jamming against the internal blade guard just here. So that's been causing a lot of problems. So let's see if I can release some of the pressure. And there we go. In fact, that is some of the wheel. So that's a worrying thing. But this is the blade guard, you notice, and it's really quite misshapen now. So I've got to replace this, change the blade, and now make sure that the upper wheel rubber isn't going to be affected, because that has really, I thought it was wood, but it isn't. That is some of the rubber. Oh dear. Right, let me get the blade out. slacken the motor off. So that's now, both ends are moving freely. There we go. And it should be all right with a good clean, but that'll be for a later date. Right. So, move that down, and this is the blade cover. It's just to protect your fingers when the blade is down, and just got to take these two nuts off, or yeah, nuts off. And that is very misshapen. That's the new one. And it should be one smooth arc, but it isn't, obviously. So this will also explain why I was having trouble getting the cut to be 160 millimeters. And if I can just mention, give a good, nice shout out to the spares department at Axminster Tools. Ever such a friendly and helpful bunch of people, and not only did they sort me out with this blade guard, but and that's come out. There we go. Oh dear, that's bending, creasing at the same time, isn't it? So what I'm going to have to do is take those two guards off as well. Right, I've managed to get the guards off both sides, and I've given everything a good clean. So just going to have another go at reinstalling this before I make the final attachment. So if I go down like that, everything should slide down much better. And those two I'll get this right one day. There we go, I've just finished that. So it was a bit of a struggle to put the blade guard in, but that's in, and it's that last little section that is the most difficult to get it to travel. So I'm going to have to watch that, but I've replaced the blade and tension is good. So just close the hatch and plug it in, turn the speed right down. Oops, helps if I turn the power on. And of course I've got to tighten the motor up, haven't I? That's running nicely. Right. The next thing I've got to do is make sure the blade is square with the fence. Right. The fence is square to the table. Is the fence square to the blade? Not quite. There's a little gap, not much, but there is a little gap at this top end. So there we go, that's that done. Just one last thing to do. I've been using an old piece of 63mm flexible tubing. It isn't really long enough, so what I've done is gone and got myself a longer piece and just attach this, then we're ready to rock. Right, we're all set up. The fence is roughly where it was last week, and working the work side against the fence, work side against the table, and we're all ready to go. No, we're not quite. I forgot. I do need the featherboard. Well, that's the benefit of a brand new blade and one of the right tooth size. That was so much easier. Less than 3 minutes for that whole piece, I reckon. And it's a nice finish. That will come up nicely once I've taken the whole thing down to its finished size of 15mm. So we're all ready now for putting everything else through the thicknesser, and I reckon that will be next time, so that, because setting the saw up has taken so much of the time today. Let me just check what sort of thickness that's left me with. So this is the offcut, and roughly that is 7mm there, just over 6. But this side is 4.5. So I've still got a slight movement from bottom to top, but it doesn't look that bad. I can see that there's a slope, but that might just be the piece of timber for a start. So I'm pleased with that result. The new blade, proper blade, has worked nicely, and I'm just in one way sorry it's taken so long to set up. I'll have to keep an eye on the wheel, and because of all of the material that it lost last time. Right, before we finish today, I just want to give a shout out to Keith. He left me a comment after episode 53, and he just mentions, because of the problem I had with the table saw and the warning video that I put out, he just said that I've got the same Bosch table saw. If you look at your instruction manual, you'll find the riving knife has 2 positions. So I've dug the manual out. I'll be having a look at that so that I can adjust the position of the riving blade, and then hopefully I'll be able to put larger, thicker pieces through the table. So thanks for that heads up, Keith, and want to say thank you too for the new subscribers that have joined the channel, and it's lovely to see the support that you're giving me. And I never expected this, as I think I've mentioned before. We're up to 122 subscribers now as of the 3rd of August, and really want to say thank you for all that you've done to make the channel grow. And just on that point, you'll have noticed that over the time that we've been running the channel, I've put several links into the descriptions, not just for some of the music that we've been playing, but for items that I'm using for in the workshop. But you'll notice they're not clickable links. Well, apparently that's all down to YouTube. They don't allow me to put clickable links in until we get to 1,000 subscribers. So we've got quite some time to go before we get there. But if I do put a link in and you want to follow it, I'm afraid you're just going to have to copy that and paste it into a web browser rather than just having the hyperlink there. Again, want to say thank you for Tim for your suggestions and support when it comes to using the bandsaw, and hopefully next time we'll be able to get back onto some really full-on woodworking by getting the full use out of the thicknesser. So thanks for coming along with me today, and I'll see you next time.